If you're someone that's on the fence about playing leagues, then let me just say that the main game will be around forever, but this is a temporary game mode that won't be. They change it each year, and this one is looking to be the best and craziest one yet, so I highly recommend that you play it. I've also been absorbing every piece of information that has dropped about League since the reveals whilst editing my new completionist video, and we've just been given the full list of relics. So I thought I'd go through each and every one of them today and rank them in a tier list to hopefully help you plan your route. I'll also be talking about combat masteries and giving my opinion on region choices too. Now, this video is sponsored by FlexiSpot. They've sent me their new XC6 swivel-based recliner chair. It was very quick to put together, only taking around 15 minutes. This is genuinely one of the comfiest chairs I've ever been on. It's also really big. I'm over 6 foot and it's a perfect size for me. I could even sit on it with crossed legs as well. It has back and forth rocking, which is an added benefit, so if you're a newer dad and you want to sit on it with your baby or play mobile or maybe even both, I imagine this is really great for that. The padding for the seat, arms and back are really thick too, and they've done a great job on the fabric and stitching. It also reclines, the footrest pops out with a switch on the side, and the back of the chair tilts too when reclining. It also has a concealed storage space for your TV remotes or notepads, and the whole chair is on a swivel too, so you could turn around in your room. It also comes in a range of colors on the FlexiSpot website, which I'll put in the description and the pinned comment. So thank you again, FlexiSpot, for sponsoring the video. So, going through these in order, and the tier 1 tools are first. These are all very similar in what they do, and for me, Animal Wrangler just about wins out. You can AFK at the Karambuan spot for a full 25 minutes with this because the fishing spot doesn't move and everything is automatically sent to the bank and cooked. It also has all of the added benefits to Hunter too, like catching chin chompers faster and Hunter traps not failing. This will go in A tier for now. Power Miner is still a great option, and that would be my second choice. I love the fact that you can get multiple ores from nodes, and I'm personally going to be taking Desert as one of my regions, so it works well as an early pickaxe for the Akka room, and I suppose it's also useful for Guardians and Chambers too. So I'm going to stick this in B for the pickaxe. And yeah, Lumberjack, don't get me wrong, I still think it's an alright relic, but when faced against the other two, it's just not as appealing to me, and so that's going into D tier. Tier 2 next, Trickster from the previous leagues has been split into 2 different relics this time. We've got Corner Cutter, which were the boots that gave agility XP from running around the game, and the auto thieving side of Trickster. But despite being split up, they've both been buffed quite a fair bit. For me, Dodgy Deals, which is the auto thieving side of Trickster, that has to come out on top for this entire tier. One of the biggest reasons for this is the fact that you can do underwater thieving on Fossil Island. Nobody really does this, but I imagine it's going to be really popular in this leagues. You see, you get a 100% thieving chance with this relic, and you can steal mermaid tears from chests. Those tiers can then be traded in for agility XP, and the XP per hour is absolutely nuts. I think I saw someone calculate over 2 to 3 million XP per hour, but I'm sure there's been some developments on this since people have tested it out. I'm also personally going to be doing lots of pet hunting, so this almost guarantees a Rocky pet. And I'm sure there will be a task to get a skilling pet, and so this one should cover it. I'm going to put this in S tier easily. With that said, where does Corner Cutter come in? I'm thinking B tier. It does still save a bunch of hours, and I'm sure there will be a ton of lap tasks that this will just speed through. The other relic in this tier is Friendly Forager. This automatically gathers herbs whilst woodcutting, fishing, mining, and hunting. But not only that, it also has a 90% chance to not consume secondaries, which is kinda nuts. I do feel like this one is region dependent though, and it also depends on which relics you pick later on, as some of the other ones will kind of make it irrelevant, so I'm gonna get this one in A tier. Teleport relics next. This is a super simple one for me. You have Bank Heist, which teleports you to any bank. I'm immediately putting this in D tier, and I'll explain why in a second. Next up is Fairy's Flight. I chose this one in Leagues 4 and it was so much fun using this. It teleports you to any spirit tree, fairy ring or tool leprechaun, and it was quite useful for Slayer and clues last league. But I'm putting it in B tier, simply because there's a brand new relic called Clue Compass. This one is absolutely cracked. You get to teleport to any stash unit in the game, and this is why I put Banker's Heist in D tier. If you were thinking of taking that relic just to have easy access to a bank, well, Clue Compass already does that. There's a stash unit in Shiloh Village inside the bank, already making Bank Heist way less useful. But not only does it teleport you to all of the stash units, it also teleports you to your current clue step, and when I saw this, I was so happy. We've since been told that there will be less clue tasks than last leagues, however it's just going to be so useful for early upgrades, money, and clearing the tasks that are there. So this is an easy S tier for me. Tier 4. Let's start with Golden God. This is the fire sale equivalent if you played last leagues. On the surface it does look worse as you don't get to instantly buy everything from the shops for free, but when you think about it some more, it does seem to be much better. You can snowball your GP by auto-alking expensive items to the point where you could be alking condensed gold for 2 billion GP an hour, whilst multitasking some other things. On top of that, you can also use all of your gold on altars. Each 20k coin stack counts as a dragon bone, which also means if you have a big enough cash stack, you could just AFK your entire prayer grind too. For me though, this one feels quite dependent on regions and relics. There's already tons of ways to make money in this leagues, and if you pick the right regions, you can have prayer solved already with the insane combat relics and 32 times XP rate for combat stats. I do respect this relic choice though, and so I'm going to be putting it in B tier. Equilibrium. I think this one's great if you're going for 200 mil all, or you want to lock in those XP tasks, but it's just not as fun as the other two in this tier, so for me, I'm putting this in C tier. Reloaded on the other hand sounds so much more fun. This only has one effect, and it allows you to pick a relic from the previous tiers. So you can run both Dodgy Deals and Corner Cutter to get the OG Trickster effects. Or you could go with both Fairy's Flight and the Clue Relic, or even just two of the starter tools. I'm picking this one and I'm a little torn on whether I want to do the underwater thieving method. I could go with the Sage's Greaves and skip that entirely, or go with Friendly Forager and have Herbalore covered, then just do the underwater method. Just because this relic hasn't been seen before and it allows for some more unique planning, I'm going to be putting this one in A tier. Tier 5 is where I'm a little bit torn. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. Starting with Treasure Arbiter, this rolls for the maximum loot on all caskets and makes each clue have the least amount of steps possible. You will also find clues from basically all sources much faster. I mentioned before though that there will be less clue related tasks than last year, although there are likely to be a lot of collection log tasks too, which this will help with significantly. There is a double-edged sword though, being the Clue Compass, because you'll be able to instantly teleport around the game, completing clues so fast already, plus you're likely to be stacking tons of clues already, but at the same time, if you pair these two up, you're likely going to be greenlogging the clue section super quick. And if you wanted to hunt down the Bloodhound this year, then this is likely one of the best relic combos to get. I'm going to be putting this in B tier. It doesn't quite get to A tier simply because of there not being as many clue tasks this year, and Clue Compass already allowing you to speed through clues. Production Master was one that I took last year, and it helped me secure the 50 mil XP task super quick, speeding me through the relic tiers and helping to lock in the dragon trophy. At the same time though, I feel like if you have a banker's note and you're quite smart about zero timing skills, then this one isn't as necessary unless you're really trying to speedrun all of the skilling tasks and focus on PVM. For that reason, I'm putting it in the A tier too. Last for this tier is Slayer Master. This one is so strong, but it's so region dependent at the same time to get the most out of it. If you have Mauritania, you'll have the Slayer helmet, and because you're always on task for any monster that's assignable, you'll have a flat DPS increase. If you're in the wilderness, you'll also have the benefit of all of the better drop rates for wilderness weapons from revs, and almost everything in the wilderness will be dropping Laren's keys constantly, which is also a great source for materials and supplies. If you have Zaya, you also get Brimstone keys, which also has the same benefits from the Brimstone chest. And also remember that Zook and Jad have an extra role for their pets when they're on task too. So assuming there's a boss pet task, this should help out a lot, especially considering Jad is one of the faster pets in the game already. For me, this one is going in A tier as well. Tier 6 now, here are the Titans. Total Recall is an absolute staple of leagues, and the fact that we have to choose between that and Banker's Note is criminal. I was using both of them at the same time last league and had such a great time. I think Total Recall wins out in certain regions over Banknote. Plus, if you pair this up with some of the Echo boss drops like the Dog Sword, then you're going to be having a ton of fun with this one. Total Recall also wins at God Wars, as you can reset the boss timers by just teleporting outside the door and walking straight back in with full HP, prayer, and spec. I'm going to be putting this one in the A tier, I think. Banker's Note though, it's so much better for the skilling side of things. You can have like 10,000 logs noted in your inventory, unnote a bunch of them and fletch whilst questing, doing herbivore, underwater thieving, or waiting on those boss timers. Not to mention one-tick runecrafting as well. And it's also so much better for PVM like Chambers, where you can just no prep and run straight into Ulm. It's also great for beginner PVMers too, who want to take on raids for the first time, or maybe even Inferno. I suck at Inferno. I only have the one cape in the main game, but I got to top page for KC last year on leagues. I was hunting the pet and traded in well over 20 capes on task without the pet. So I'm going to be picking this one yet again in the hopes that I can get the pet this time around. And just because of the sheer amount of uses this one has, I'm going to be putting it into S tier. But I don't think you could go wrong with either one, really. Tier 7. We're getting through these super quick. Let's start with a new one, Pocket Kingdom. This gives you access to the Kingdom of Miscellanea wherever you are. Workers are always at 100% approval, even though you're paying them half of what you normally would, and they produce materials every single hour instead of every day. This has huge potential depending on your other relic picks. If you already have all of your materials and supplies covered, then you should probably skip over this one. But if not, then this is a solid pick. I don't think you should have any trouble putting money into this one either, even if you didn't pick Golden God. For me, this one's going in B tier. Overgrown is another relic that's insane for herb lore and farming specifically. It kind of reminds me of Pocket Kingdom in a way because it's something that's working for you in the background and producing supplies for you. It gives you access to the seed vault from Zaya, and it'll automatically plant seeds for you, add ultra compost, and bank the produce. It also means none of your crops will die, and it also has a 75% chance to save all of your seeds. However, this doesn't work when you're offline, and it also doesn't proc for the farming pet. Everyone already gets the passive of farming ticks being every minute instead of every 5 minutes anyway, so this is for the people who don't want to do farm runs and are stretched for seeds. For me personally, this is going into C tier. I just feel like there are better alternatives, and I preferred the instant farming relic from last league. Grimoire next. This unlocks all spell books and also unlocks all prayers like Rigor, Augury, and Piety. This allows you to skip over Kandarin completely as a melee build if you'd like to have Piety, and you aren't locked to Zaya for Augury or Rigor either. Plus you get the benefits of all of the other spellbooks, which is great. This league, however, we're already going to be doing insane damage, so the DPS increase isn't as high. For that reason alone, I'm also putting it into B tier. Alright, so last tier for the combat relics. Not the combat masteries, I'll talk about those afterwards. And I'm going to start with specialists. This makes all of the special attacks cost 20% and they have 100% accuracy. And when you kill an NPC, you restore that special attack back too. And this one's going to be great if you're pairing it up with some of the echo items like the dog sword. I can imagine this is super fun to play with for a few hours, but that's also kind of the problem with it for me personally. I don't really want to be clicking that spec button 5 times for every kill for the entire league. So for me, this one is going into C tier. Guardian next. This is basically just a super thrall that will do AoE attacks, switch styles depending on what you're fighting, and just give a big boost in DPS. They increased the attack rate from 5 ticks to 4 for this one this year too, and I think this one's overall the better pick for more DPS, especially if you're newer to PvM and you're missing a lot of ticks where you could be attacking yourself. For me, this one is going into B tier. Last relic and its last recall. This one reminds me of Undying Retribution from last leagues. I do see a lot of people saying that this is for people who are newer to PvM and it's just a crutch. But as with last year, if you took Undying Retribution, you could also use it for extra DPS or to insta-kill bosses because of the recoil effect. But this year we have something a little different. All of your stats will instantly go to 255 on death, and then it'll drain really fast. But you'll also heal for whatever you hit, meaning you could just stand there on enrage phases of bosses and just face tank the entire thing doing tons of DPS. It's also going to be quite useful in the wilderness and dealing with griefers. For me personally, I'm going to be putting Last Recall in S tier. And so that's all of the relics, but we do also have the combat masteries. I'm going to be putting every single one of these into S tier. You really can't go wrong with any of them. You're going to be doing such crazy damage regardless of the option you pick, and some of the differences in times to kill bosses are really minimal, so just pick whatever you find the most fun. Leagues gives us the option to make some really stupid builds that wouldn't be feasible in the main game, like the Justicia Tebow build. There's also Last Recall and Darox. If you pair this with a tier 6 mastery of all of the echo hits, then I think we're going to be seeing some absolute insane damage splats, potentially in the thousands. If you do pick melee though and you're thinking of taking on Zuck, you may have a harder time with this one, but you should still have some points to put into range or mage too. For mage, I do think this one is the weaker of the 3 this year, but like melee, it has the potential to hit some absolutely crazy numbers with Last Recall, and pair this up with the tier 6 passive, which executes enemies under your max hit, then we very well may be insta-killing lower health bosses too. If you're wondering what my picks are, then I'm going for Animal Wrangler, Dodgy Deals and Friendly Forager, the Clue Compass, Reloaded, Slayer Master, Banker's Note, Grimoire, and Last Stand. And for the Combat Relic, I'm going to be picking Range, with 3 points also going into Melee, and I think the last point will go into Mage. For regions, I'm going for Desert, Fremenic, and the Wilderness for pet hunting. My advice for region picking is probably not what you want to hear, but let's be honest, no matter what regions and relics you're picking, you're going to be so overpowered and flooded with items regardless. So if you want to pick all of the relics that everyone thinks is bad and you don't want to raid, then that's perfectly fine. You do you just have fun. I'm going to be streaming my entire League's playthrough over on Twitch. I got a dragon trophy and a bunch of pets last time, and I'm hoping to be doing the same again this year. You can find me at twitch.tv/SaintShebaRS, and I highly recommend you come and check out the streams. If you're not a fan of streams though, and you're looking for second monitor content, then come check out my completionist series. I have a 1-year progress video that somehow has over 700,000 views. As always, I want to give a big thank you to all of my channel members, Misks and Henrik the Epic at the supporter tier, and a special thank you to I Am Chomp and K at the benefactor tier. I really appreciate the support, and I have a brand new completionist video coming very soon for you, likely this week.